Wrestling Podcast with your host, T.D. Hurt, and your co-host. Ladies and gentlemen, today we have the man, Joe Wheeler. Joe, how you doing, buddy?
Doing good, doing good. Hope everybody's doing well. But yeah, we'll have a fun time, man. A lot of stories to tell, a lot of things to talk about in the wrestling world.
Let's just hop right off. Let's hop right off with you being 8 years old to from your beginnings.
Right on, right on. I grew up near Wilmington, North Carolina, down on the coast of North Carolina, and Jim Crockett Promotions, Mid Atlantic Wrestling used to come to Legion Stadium, which was a big football stadium in Wilmington, and they would only come during the summertime, and spring, summer, and fall, and they didn't come around in the winter, even though the winters aren't bad in Wilmington. But basically, we would have our little season of wrestling in Wilmington, and when I was a little kid, I fell in love with the business and wanted to be a part of it any way I could, and I started going out to the stadium early, and I got to meet Klondike Bill Miller, and Klondike Bill took care of setting up the rings at the matches, and so I just kind of befriended him and just started helping him in any way that I could, as far as putting the rings up, and my reward for that was I would get to sit on this bench inside the fence, just spitting distance from the ring. There was many times I had to get up off that bench and move when the match, spilled out onto the field. Because basically you had the ring sitting on a football field, and you had a fence in between the field and the stands where all the people were. But so yeah, that was my great reward. Was one of the best seats in the house, and so I just kept going out there every time wrestling would come to town, and would help Klondike Bill, and work my way up to where I get to carry the robes back. I'd take the robes and take them back to the dressing room and just put them down, in the dressing room and come right back out. And just to be a part of it, and to see the matches that I saw. I mean, I was watching Ric Flair and Ricky Steamboat, in the mid '70s, late '70s, battling for the U.S. title. I was watching Blackjack Mulligan and Greg the Hammer Valentine, beat the hell out of each other every night. I mean, it was an incredible experience, as a kid to be able to do what I did. So it was a lot of fun to get started.
Heck yeah. Who took you under the wing and taught you broadcasting, interviewing? Who was your influence?
Well, nobody really that I could say taught me. I grew up watching. I grew up.
See, that's it.
I when I was I kind of put it in perspective. I'm about to turn 51 years old, and when I was a kid, we had these things called rabbit ears, and they were these funny metal things that stuck out of the back of your television, and you had to wiggle these things around to get channels and stuff. And one of my memories as a child is tuning in and trying to get Florida Championship Wrestling, with the rabbit ears, because it was at a station that wasn't in my hometown per se. And but I would watch Georgia Championship Wrestling and then Florida Championship Wrestling when I could get it. And so, I mean, I grew up watching Gordon Solie, basically, and of course, Jim Ross as well. But I love Gordon Solie. I mean, he was the man. He was the man. No one ever really taught me. I guess he was just him and Jim Ross, I would say, I guess, were my biggest influences. And of course, I watched David Crockett and Mid Atlantic Wrestling as well, and those guys. So just watching it, really, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to take from anybody, Gordon Soley is the man to take from. And, of course, JR does great as well, but Gordon Soley is I guess, I would say the original greatest commentator I've ever heard in my life. Um, so, we were talking just the other day about a promotion that you ran in North Carolina, and just talk about that a little bit, and then some of the stars you brought in before they were stars.
Oh yeah, right. Um, Back in the well, I ran wrestling in Wilmington, um, going all the way back into the early '90s, like '93, '94. Um, but that was really where I got going, was with Jubilee Park in, Carolina Beach, down near Wilmington, and we would do events there, at the park. But yeah, I was really lucky. I got to work with a lot of amazing talent, and knew them before they were ever stars. For instance, Shade Helms, um, Matt and Jeff Hardy, Joey Abs of the Mean Street Posse. Uh, Shannon Moore was known as Kid Dynamo back then. Um, just the list goes on. There was so many great guys. Joey Joey Mags, or not Joey Mags. I'm having a brain blip, but basically, when I first met Matt and Jeff Hardy, Jeff was like 16 years old, and I guess Matt was maybe 17. A year ahead of him. I'm not sure exactly, but I knew Matt was a little bit older. But Jeff Hardy, he was hesitant. Matt was kind of like, no, 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 he's not ready. He's not ready. And I remember, but Jeff always would come to the shows, and I remember walking over to him one time.
Obviously, you got an eye for great talent for one thing, but I mean, you've been everywhere. You know everybody. Like if on your Facebook, I mean, you have everybody from Ric Flair, Kurt Hennig, Arn Anderson, everybody,
Uh,
and it's because they see, the talent in you as well, and it flocks together, like a magnet. It's what, when I met you, and I heard about you and Larry Sabisco doing, which we'll also talk about, doing commentary on the set of that indie wrestler movie we did and everything, and then I just my mind was blown, because I'm like, man, he's done this with Larry Sabisco. He's doing it now. What kind of, like, that's the first time I heard about you, but of course I was also green in the business as well. But I was like, man, I got to go talk to this guy. And then I finally, on the set of the second one, there's actually a picture of me talking to you, um, which I was wearing the worst rain gear ever, blue shorts and a Mario Mario shirt. But man, that's why the other day when I saw you again, I'm like, man, I've got to talk to Joe. I mean, and Bobo Brown, downtown Bobo Brown from Detroit City. Um, Me and him rode up and down the road from West Virginia. We did a bunch of Southern State wrestling shows and everything. But I mean, he he talks so highly of you, and I'm like, dude, he is freaking awesome, and it's just blew my mind. That's why I'm like, I gotta talk to him. I gotta talk to Joe. But yeah, if you want to talk about you and Larry Sabisco
sure.
doing commentary, man.
I love Larry. Larry's awesome. Larry and I first probably, I think the first time we worked together was for Iron Ring Wrestling, which was run by Jeff Tankersley over in the Tri Cities, and Larry and I we just click. I mean, we have a very similar style, and work well together. I could certainly lead Larry right into a funny line because I know how to set him up because I know his mentality. We just I love working with Larry. We've called so many shows together over the years, and that was like the first indie wrestler movie that we did. I'm sure you remember it was hot as hell that day.
Oh yeah.
And Larry and I both, we showed up wearing khaki shorts, blue shirts. I just had a plain blue shirt, but Larry had like a Hawaiian shirt. That's all he wears.
Yeah.
And we both had flip flops on. And that's how we how we showed up. And I looked at Larry. I said, "Is that how you going on?" He says, "Fuck yeah! As hot as it is in here, I'm not putting on anything." But because it was really super hot in that building. It was a hot August day, but we sat there and we ate ice cream and called the matches and got through it, and it is what it is. But we had a good time. I'll never forget that day because it was a long day and it was hot. But Larry and I were like the two grumpy old men from the Muppets show. We were like the two grumpy old men sitting up on the balcony at the Muppet show, just cutting jokes and laughing and getting through it and having a good time. But Larry's great. I actually saw Larry on a live feed virtual signing the other day, and he's doing great. He's down in Florida and looks great. You could tell he's been out and been getting some suntan and everything. So he's doing well, which I'm glad to see because it's been a sad month with losing Road Warrior Animal at the beginning of the month, and of course Bo James's mother passed recently, and I've actually had Johnny Meadows. I don't know Johnny Meadows from Knoxville area. He passed away today, actually. So it's just kind of been sad with losing people, but I guess that's why I was glad to see Larry on that live feed and see he was doing good and doing well because you never know. Everybody's got that clock. Everybody's got a clock over their heads.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. For all our condolences to Road Warrior Animal, and of course Bo James's mother, and the guy from Knoxville that you were talking about. I don't think I've ever met or worked with him, but yeah, it's been rough. And COVID has depressed people so bad too that it's just terrible. It's hard to go to indie shows and because everything's shut down, and it's like how are we going to keep the business alive? And that's why one reason why I want to do this podcast is because I want to keep the business alive. I want to get us back into it as much as I can right now, and it sucks losing people, but it's also better to know that they're not suffering from anything too. No more, that they're in better places, and Bo James has always been great to me. I mean, he didn't know me from nothing, and Bobo's like, "Hey, can he come with me and be on the show?" And then I was on a Hall of Fame show, and he's such a great guy, and I feel so bad, and like my heart's broken for him, and you were so close to her as well, and my heart's broken for you as well, and I just hope that the healing process um, can be as easy as it can be for Bo and you and everybody that was close to this woman, and to Road Warrior Animal, and to the other kid. What did you say the other guy's name was? I'm sorry.
His name was Johnny Meadows. He wrestled as Johnny Meadows of the tag team, the Midnight Rockers. Him and Joe Kazana um, did a lot of tag teaming together. But yeah, he was known as Johnny Meadows, and he was he's a good guy. A lot of folks in the Knoxville, East Tennessee area, knew him. But he lost his fight to COVID, is what my understanding is. I knew he'd been in intensive care, been on a respirator last week or so. But it's it is relieving to know that people aren't suffering anymore, like you said. And talking about somebody suffering right now, and got to include this man in your thoughts and prayers, is Tracy Smothers. The wild-eyed Southern boy, Tracy Smothers, is he's in a fight for his life right now, as he's got cancer, and he's also got a heart condition where his heart's not functioning properly and fully. So his heart's not fully operational as it should be. So Tracy Smothers needs some thoughts and prayers from everybody right now, because he's in a struggle right now. But it's just the unfortunate reality of life, as we all, one way or another, none of us are getting out of this deal alive. So
No.
we just got to do the best we can and enjoy ourselves, and have a good time while we can.
That's right, man. And Tracy was also on that indie wrestler show with us. I went with Josh to go meet Tracy and talk to him, and he is the coolest guy, one of the coolest guys ever. And my heart goes out to him. Prayers go out, and thoughts and prayers go out to him as well. And um, how long have you been working with Bo James? How long you've known Bo James? I know it's a long time.
Yeah, it's been probably about 25 years um, that I've been a part of Southern States Wrestling. I met Bo a couple of years probably before that, working on shows in Raleigh and Columbia, South Carolina, Raleigh, North Carolina, Columbia, South Carolina. I worked with him for a couple of years here and there before I moved to Asheville, where I live now. And but I've been with Southern States pretty much since I moved up here to Asheville, which is the end of '95. And we've had so many incredible shows, and that's why I really am excited, and have been excited for a while, about the Southern States Wrestling Network, and the fact that with the network you could go back and you can relive and remember and experience some of the matches that we've done. I mean, not everything's on there. There's new content being added every month, and the stuff that's there, though, goes back in some cases into the early '90s, and it's a blast. It's so much fun to go back and see some of the stars that have come through over the years. I mean, Ivan Koloff and Jimmy the Boogie Woogie Man Valiant, of course, have been there. Tracy Smothers has been there plenty of times. The Rock and Roll Express, Ricky Morton, Robert Gibson, Ronnie Garvin, the Hands of Stone, Jerry Lawler, Bill Dundee, Dutch Mantell. Man, the list. We've had David Flair.
Oh wow!
And,
I did not know.
Yeah, David Flair has been in Southern States, and Reed Flair, his younger brother, who's no longer with us. One of his very first, or it may be his very first and possibly only televised match, was on Southern States Wrestling.
Oh wow!
It was Reed Flair teamed up with Ricky Morton, and as I recall, they took on Frank the Tank Parker, and Scotty McKeever wrestled under a mask. I'm drawing a blank on the mask gimmick that Scotty did, but it was Scotty McKeever under the mask. Yeah, that tag team match occurred in Southern States Wrestling, and I was trying to remember. It was only a year maybe before Reed passed that match occurred. But it's out there. It's on YouTube, and it's on the Southern States Wrestling Network as well. So, I mean, just the depth of the stars that we've had over the years and the number of events and matches. I mean, I don't even know how many hours of content are on at this point, but it's a lot.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It goes all the way back to 91. I know I'm subscribed to it. So, but yeah, it goes all the way back to 91. I also seen the Sensational Sherry was on there.
Yes.
Mr. Perfect, Kurt Hennig. Just so many names has went through there and still coming. I mean, when I was there, I'll be honest, I kind of marked out a little bit because when I was a kid, I grew up watching Smoky Mountain Wrestling, and I knew about the Dirty White Boy Tony Anthony. And when I was there on that show with him, I said to him, I looked at it. He said, Bobo says, "You know who this is?" I said, "Yeah, that's the Dirty White Boy. I used to watch him as a kid," and he heard it. And Bobo says, "Don't say that." But yeah, that I mean, Dirty White Boy's there. Tom Pritchard was there.
Wolfie D.
Wolfie D. Yes,
Wolfie D
from
was
PG 13.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was such a great show. To me, it's probably the highlight of my short career is being in that show and being around all those legends. I mean, there's just so many people that go through there, and that's why I'm like, I think I thank God that I met Bo James, and he allowed me to come into his promotion, and it was just so awesome. Do you have any funny rib stories about anybody you know or anything like that?
Oh yeah. um, hmm. I'll tell you one, and I'll keep it I'll keep it safe. The names have been changed to protect the innocent. Let's put it that way. But I'll tell it in enough context that someone involved, if they watch this, they would know. So anyway, we one of the highlights of my wrestling career has been to work for Armed Forces Entertainment and the USO. I've been very blessed to have traveled to military bases all over the world and announced wrestling shows and, help coordinate things and produce wrestling events, like I said, at bases all over the world. I could talk for hours about that. But here's the rib story. I'm sure you remember a lot of guys used to carry around the little spray bottles with water in them, and they'd spritz themselves down and spray it in their mouth and wet themselves. Well, we were at a military base show, and there was this one particular guy who was being very obnoxious and being very rude towards the lady that was driving the van. What they were doing, we were outdoors. The event was outdoors, and it was a carnival type of thing. They had rides and booths and different things going on, and we were actually under this huge big top, literally like a big circus big top. But they had the tent over the ring. Anyway, it was a good distance from the tent to where the dressing rooms were. So they had a van that they were driving back and forth to bring the wrestlers back and forth to the dressing room and the ring. Well, this one guy kept riding. He wouldn't get off the van, and he kept being very aggressive, sexually aggressive towards the female driver, to the point that we were like, dude, would you fucking straighten up? Come on, this is way wrong. Stop. But he kept on. Well, he finally went to work his match. And while he went to work his match, one of the boys took his spray bottle, poured out about half the water, and filled it back up with a little naturally filtered water. He pissed in it, pissed in the bottle, put the lid back on it, put it right back on the seat with his towel, right where he picked it up from. And I'm like, dude, really? But, it was none of my business. The guy comes back. First thing he does, he's all hot, sweaty from having just worked and everything. He grabs that fucking water bottle.
Oh my God.
Spraying it all in his mouth and everything. And I'm just like, oh man, I got to go start the next match. I won't. It wasn't my deal. But I tell you what, it couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. The son of a bitch got what he was just way out of line. So
that'll teach you if you do stuff like that, you'll get golden showers and not know it.
Right.
Oh
Well,
my gosh.
Karma's a bitch, and you act inappropriate, things are going to happen inappropriate to you sometimes,
Especially in the locker room.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was to the point I was starting to wonder if the woman, if she was going to call an MP or something like that. I mean, because I apologized to her. I was like, ma'am, I'm sorry, because the guy was being out of line, Otherwise, I wouldn't have condoned such things. But like I said, it couldn't have happened to a nicer guy.
Exactly. Who would you say, of all the wrestlers, that you're closest to, that you traveled with most, know the most stories about?
There'd be a couple guys. I mean, of course, Bo James and I have traveled a lot together, doing events. Traveled a lot with Barbarian. He and I have been stuck next to each other on an airplane, for hours on end, having to lean over each time the stewardess would come by with the drink cart or whatever. I think one of my favorite people that I traveled with a lot was Scotty McKeever. Of course, Scotty's been passed away for a few years now, but Scotty and I spent a lot of time together doing the USO shows and going overseas, and it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun, and it was I'll never forget when the first time I was going to work on one of these overseas shots. I had to go down to Charlotte, North Carolina, to get on the plane. And I live in Asheville, so it's like a 2-hour drive down there. So I drive down there, and I'm, in the Charlotte airport, and this is the first time I'd ever gotten on an airplane. And here we go, right into the big leagues. I'm going right into Charlotte to try to find my gate and everything else. And I'll never forget, I finally got to my gate, and I kind of looked around, and there was Scotty McKeever sitting there. I didn't know. I mean, I knew he was supposed to be on the tour, but I didn't know he was going to be there, that day. And that was a lot of fun because we were able to sit next to each other, and we had a short flight of just, I think it was like 4 hours or something, up to Detroit, Michigan, and that was where we met up with the rest of the crew, and everybody flew from Detroit to Tokyo. And that was like a 18 and a half hour flight.
Dang.
And yeah, that was the second flight I'd ever been on in my life, was 18 and a half hours going to Tokyo.
Oh,
But, you know, you do what you got to do. I mean, and it was kind of tough for me because in some regards, because I am a bit claustrophobic. You know, I don't like to be real tight in confined spaces. I always like to feel as though I can leave a place if I need to. So that's you at a wrestling event. You never see me in the crowd. Oh, I'm always around. I'm always on the edge, on the outside. But I'm a bit claustrophobic, and I did have a fear of heights, and I still kind of do to a point. So the thought of getting on an airplane, it was just kind of like, you know, holy shit, you know. But when you got a booking that's going to take you to Tokyo, Japan, to live out a dream, are you going to let that fear stop you from living that dream, or are you going to go grab it? And, you know, I went and grabbed it, you know. I mean, it's like everything in life. You get an opportunity to do something, you better do it. But, you know, that's part of the thing some people do and don't talk about in the wrestling business is the travel. And it can be rough. It can really be rough on you. And people think it's all a life of luxury and you know, jet planes and limousines and, you know, Ric Flair. But, you know, until you've sat in an airplane for 18 hours, you know, there's nothing luxurious about that.
No, not at all. To Tokyo. What part of Tokyo did you go to?
Well, Tokyo was the first stop on that actual leg, because we actually just took a pit stop in Tokyo. We were there for 2 hours, and then we had to get on another plane in order to go to Seoul, Korea, and that was another 7-hour flight.
Dang.
Yeah, so we did 18 and a half to get to Tokyo. We sat there in the airport for 2 hours, got on another plane and flew 7 to get to Seoul. And here's a story. As though that wasn't a long enough day, okay? 18 and a half to Tokyo, 2 in the airport, 7, we finally get to Seoul. It's like midnight Seoul time. I don't even know what time it is back to Eastern Standard, you know. I'm
No.
so half asleep, just tired, whatever. Anyway, we get to the airport in Seoul. We're all going through the customs deal, and the Barbarian has a passport from the Kingdom of Tonga. Well, we had all sent all of our passports and IDs, and we'd done all of this paperwork that we had to send in. It had to be in 6 weeks before we left. And we all had put our stuff in, so we thought everything was good. Anyway, the South Koreans didn't like Barb's passport.
Oh,
so here we are in this airport at midnight. Everybody's tired. Everybody's grumpy. Everybody just wants to get to the hotel. Well, they won't let Barb in. And you got like 10 or 12 5'5" South Korean police standing around Barbarian. I mean, the man's, 6'4", 6'5", 300 plus, monster, Barb. He could kill every one of them with, 2 clotheslines. And I'm sitting there looking, I'm like, wow, do they really think they can do anything? And in South Korea, they don't, the police they don't have guns. They carry large billy sticks, large clubs, but they don't have guns. And so I'm just like, wow, are you kidding me? But anyway, it finally came down to we could either put Barb in what they called a secured hotel room there in the airport, and that was like $200 for the night, or he could go spend the night in the equivalent of the local county jail. And we said, no, we're not putting Barb in the local county jail. We're putting him up at the hotel. It ended. It was a mess. But the man who was in charge, he told me, he said, look, he said, you got one duty, one responsibility. You make sure everybody's on the tour bus tomorrow morning at 10 a.m., whether I show up with Barb or not. And I was like, whether you show up or not. And he was like, yeah. He said, I'm counting on you. Have everybody's ass on that bus, and that bus leaves at 10. I said, all right, boss, I can do that. I can do that. Next morning, everybody's loaded up. We're on the bus. We're ready to go. Well, here they come. These two cars come flying into the hotel. We were at the Capitol Hotel in Seoul, downtown. And these two vehicles come flying up, and it's the promoter and Barbarian and a couple of military guys from the military U.S. bases. I think it was like a general or a lieutenant or something. I'm not sure. Anyway, they come flying up, and they got Barb out of that dilemma at the airport over his passport. But it was crazy. It was just one of those things you'll never forget, because you're sitting there in that airport and you just want to go take a shower and get some sleep, and they're jamming up Barb over his damn passport.
Oh my gosh, I'm surprised he didn't kill him right then and there. Him and Haku, I'm telling you, like, I heard about the which a lot of people's probably heard about the cop taser in Haku, and he no-sold it. I would not mess with any one of them. They would, oh my gosh, 5 feet like cops with billy sticks, no guns, against Barbarian.
Yeah.
That wouldn't end well. And you put him in jail, everybody in there is just going to die too. So, oh my gosh. Oh my God.
Well, thank God that Barbarian is a very, very easygoing fella. He's really a laid back guy, so thank God he's a lot cooler and calmer and nicer than what his character is. That's for sure. Because Barb really is. He's a wonderful person, and I've known him and his wife and kids for years and years, and he's definitely one of the best. He's a great guy, and I'll never forget that though, because there he towered above all these little guys, and I'm just like, wow, this is like something out of a weird movie.
Oh my gosh. I met him on a independent film that the same director that did Indie Wrestler 1 did. He brought him in, Barbarian. He brought Al Snow, and Chris Hemsworth was traveling with Barbarian. I think he was driving him around, and yeah, it was so cool. It was a dream come true, because I was in the same scenes as him, and he did his whole tongue thing. Oh, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. I almost missed my mark of what I was supposed to do in the film.
Well, you mentioned Ming. Ming's notorious for being one of the baddest, toughest guys in the business. And of course, there's a few stories about him kicking people's asses in situations. But it's the same thing. Ming's just like Barb. At least my experience being around those guys and working with them. Ming is so cool and laid back and just chill. He's not a high-strung guy, but you push his buttons a couple times, and he'll warn them. He'll tell you, get away from me, because he has snapped on people. I mean, he's bitten people's noses off. Ming had. So yeah, he's not a guy you want to mess with, because he's legitimately a badass. I mean, even Andre the Giant was scared to piss Ming off, because Andre knew how badass Ming was, and could be. But it's like Barb. There's there's a famous story about Barb where he got into a problem out in California, and he'd been drinking, and Barb had been drinking, and the police were trying to arrest him for something, and not sure exactly what it was, but anyway, Barb ends up in the local county jail. Well, somebody called Barb's wife, and Barb's wife is known as Mama. He calls her Mama. And somebody called Mama. Mama gets on a plane from Charlotte, flies out there to California. She goes to the county jail and gets him and proceeds to beat the hell out of him in front of the cops. So much so the cops are like, please, quit, because we're going to have to charge you. And Barb's like, Mama, no, please, you're going to, protect the gimmick. What if everybody finds out I got beat up by my wife? But his wife, she's a really sweet lady. Her name's Sandy, and she's a very sweet lady. But yeah, she's very protective, and she definitely keeps the big man in line. That's for sure.
There you go.
So thankfully, Barb doesn't drink anymore and hadn't ever since that incident, as I believe. So, but he's a super nice guy. I've had the privilege of knowing him and working with him for years and years. I first met Barb through Ivan Koloff. Ivan introduced us. So Ivan was a great guy and tremendous mentor to many guys throughout the Carolinas. He used to have a school down near Charlotte that he ran for several years in the early 90s and early to mid 90s. So Ivan certainly missed as well, but he was a great guy.
In the business, like it's crazy. You've been doing it since you were 8 years old. It's
much
like that's unheard of, man. I'm just so glad that me and you are doing this podcast now, and I mean we're going to take it to the limits, but yeah, anything you want to plug, you're awesome. And ladies and gentlemen, if you cannot see because you're blind, behind Joe is so much wrestling memorabilia, and he sells it. You auction it off. Am I correct?
Yeah, we do live auctions, and sometimes a lot of straight sales too, where I'll just show you the item and tell you the price. And anybody watching the podcast here, please look me up on Facebook and send me a friend request, and be happy to accept it. And that makes you eligible to bid in the auctions and to make purchases. I've been having a lot of fun with it. I mean, that's there's always something good to be gotten out of a bad situation. You just have to dig sometimes to find it. And one of the positive things that I've seen come from the COVID is the virtual signings, the online auctions and sales. And to me, that's something that it's never going to go away now, because you've got such a beautiful medium. I've in just the few sales that I've done, I've got folks that are tuning in from Germany, Australia, Canada. I mean, it's fun to fill out those customs forms when you're sending a big envelope across a border, let me tell you. But it's been a great experience, and to meet these people, through technology and be able to visit with them. If I go to Australia, I got a buddy down there now that'll, show me around. Which Australia is one of the places I have not been, and I'd love to go and see that, and see New Zealand as well. I got as close as Guam, so I made it to the island of Guam doing a USO tour, but haven't made it to New Zealand and Australia yet, but I hope to one day, because they're beautiful places. But the technology is just awesome. But yeah, I mean, um, I encourage everybody to, like I said, send me a friend request on Facebook, and because I've got unique stuff that I have collected over the years myself, and a lot of the autographs that I do offer, I've obtained myself in person. Um, because that's one thing about me. I'm not a shy person, um, and I've gotten people to sign things for me over the years. Um, and I'm so glad that I did. I've got some beautiful pieces that Sherry Martell signed for me. Um, before she passed, and to me, they're just treasured items now. I mean, there's certain things that I won't sell, but um, there are pieces that I will, and I do deal with some of the vendors and that do conventions and that kind of thing. A lot of guys up in New York and that area, so I do work with some very reputable vendors on some of my stuff that I offer as well. But you had mentioned I have a great Muta picture
Yeah.
behind. I don't know how well folks can really see it, but um, there is a great Muta up there. But what's really cool is right next to Great Muta is a great Kabuki and Gary Hart.
Oh
Um,
yeah, I see it on the right.
yeah, yeah, just over. Like I think this would be Kabuki
Yep.
and Gary, that one there, and then that was Muta there. But yeah, the great Kabuki man. I got his autograph when I was a kid, working at Jim Crockett Promotions and taking the robes back to the dressing room. And I'll be perfectly honest with you, I was scared. I mean, because I didn't want to jeopardize my little spot, by asking for an autograph. But at the same time, that was great Kabuki man. He was badass, and I was kind of scared of him too because I didn't know how he was going to respond to me. Um, but I'd walked up with a piece of paper and a pen. It was a ballpoint pen, and he actually drew a little. There's like a little pig that he draws on his autographs, and he drew the little pig and signed it, everything. Um, and that to me, that's like that's one of those pieces I won't sell, because I got Kabuki, I got Gary Hart, and I got Great Muta all together.
There you go.
It's kind of like my fabulous Moolah and Mae Young that I have back there as well. Those girls loved them. I got to work with them a lot over the years, and they were just wonderful. Nothing but good times and good memories with those two. They were crazy. They were fun.
Okay, now that you mentioned that, you got to tell Mae Young because I've heard so much about how feisty and how funny she is. You got to tell Mae Young's story.
All right. Sure. I worked with Mae and Moolah several times. One one particular event that we did that comes to mind. I had this would have been in it was in December. It was in December of 2001, 19 years ago. God, I'm old. But it was December of 2001. We were in a little town called West Jefferson, North Carolina, which is up near the North Carolina Virginia border, like near Boone and North Wilkesboro in that area. Um, and we were doing an event up there. We had Moolah and May coming in for it, and it was so funny because I remember when I called Moolah uh, to talk to her about the booking and doing the event. I asked her, um, if she wanted to bring a couple of girls um, for them to work. If you've got a couple girls, is there anybody you prefer that we book, for y'all to work against? Um, because Moolah for years and years she booked out the ladies and the midgets. So, you know, it was to me it was just a natural thing. Who do you want to work? You know, you do that out of respect for legends like that. And anyway, she says to me, she says, "You give us a couple guys to work. A couple of guys to work? Are you sure, Miss Moolah?" "Yep, I'm sure. You pick us a couple guys, that are good hands, and that can work, and we'll work against a couple of guys. Just give us a couple guys." I was like, "Okay, if that's what you want to do, we can do it." But It's so funny, because Moolah and May, they went out there and they roughed them boys up. They did. They did. The video's out there on YouTube. Um, I was trying to think of the title of the video, but um, if you Google Moolah and May versus the Radical, I think, because there was a manager character that was highly involved in the whole angle. His name was the Radical. But yeah, it's out there on YouTube. They hit those boys with a couple of stiff knees, and I mean those ladies, they were in their 70s even then, but they went right in there and they worked a great match and gave the people everything they wanted. And of course 2001 they were still hot on WWE television, but it was a great night though. That place was completely sold out, packed out to the rafters, and Moolah and May, they had no hesitation in their mid 70s going in there and working against a couple guys that they'd never met before, and they took it to them. They took it to them. It was great. It was great. They were some really sweet ladies.
I remember watching Mae Young and the Dudley Boys when Bubba put her through the table, and I thought as a kid, I'm like, oh my gosh, he's crazy. Why did this happen? But she uh, she oh my gosh, they're both like I can't. They're so tough that it doesn't matter who you put them with. They, oh my gosh, it's just I don't even have the words to explain how even on TV they seem. And oh my gosh, the stuff with her and Mark Henry, Mae Young and Mark Henry, was just classic. Um,
Well, I tell you, you know, as I understand it, Bubba Ray was very, very nervous about doing that spot with Miss May. Because you're dealing with a 70-year-old lady, and you're jumping off a stage and going through tables with her and everything. And but May was all for it. I mean, she was like, hey, if that's what y'all want to do, let's do this. Um, there was no fear. She was always willing to do whatever the company wanted her to do, and you know, even some crazy absurd stuff like what went on with Sexual Chocolate and Mark Henry and
the hand.
the birth of the hand. Yeah, I had to share this one. I went to May's funeral when Miss May passed. I went to her funeral in Columbia, South Carolina. That's where May and Moolah are both buried. And Stephanie McMahon was there, and she, of course, had to get up and deliver her eulogy, or get up and have her little say. And she, and I don't care who hears this. It's the truth. She was the most inappropriate of anything in that whole funeral, because we were there to celebrate the life of Miss May, and that was like the main thing that Stephanie wanted to talk about, was the birth of the hand.
Oh
And
my
it's
god.
like, really, I mean, that was a blip on the radar of May's career and who she was, and the incredible matches, and to wrestle as long as she did and be a part of stunts, like with the Dudley Boys and going through the table and everything at her age. I mean, so many incredible things you could talk about, Stephanie, but you're going to talk about a stupid, inappropriate skit that was written by your daddy's company.
Hmm.
And she tried to make a joke out of it at the funeral. Not a damn soul laughed. The only thing I heard when she made her little joke was a couple people just clear their throats, like, really? But anyway, it bugged me. It bugged me because I was just like, wow, of all the things, you came down here to Columbia from Connecticut, came down here for the funeral, which was nice, appreciate that. But then you're going to say something like that. in front of a bunch of people here who to pay their respects. But
Yeah.
anyway, Stephanie was Stephanie, but when I met Vince McMahon, he was nice to me, so at least he's got some class, maybe.
Maybe. Oh no, you ask John Moxley, it might be totally different. But yeah. Oh my God. It's so.
May and Moolah and Sherry Martel, May, Moolah, and Sherry were like they were just such beautiful people, such wonderful people to be around. Sherry was she was a ray of sunshine everywhere she went, and she cared. That that was one thing. I'll tell you a story about Sherry Martel. That was one of the things that really just amazed me the first time that I worked with her. Is we were doing an interview for Southern States Wrestling, and we were putting over the event that was going to happen in 2 weeks from then, and you know, talking about the card in 2 weeks. And we didn't have a script to read or anything like that. As an announcer, I would throw out the date, place, the time. Here we go. Your opponent's this person. Boom, boom, boom. And then I put the mic on. Well, Sherry, of course, she's a pro. She took off, and she cut a great promo, and she hit all the bullet points that needed to be hit. I wrapped it up. Camera went dark. She looked at me, and the first thing she said was, "How was that? Was that okay? Did I cover everything all right? Should we do it again?" I'm like, "Babe, no, it was beautiful. We nailed it. It was great." And I looked over at the camera guy and I said, "What'd you think?" He's like, "Double thumbs up." But to me, what was so awesome about that moment was this is like 2000, the end of 2001, 2002. It was right after WCW had folded. And it amazed me that she cared that much about a small local promotion or television, which we had a decent coverage area, but still compared to where she'd been, and
Oh yeah.
We were piss ants, but
Yeah,
she
she was
cared.
a star, a big
Absolutely.
star. Like you said, those three, Sherry, May, and Moolah, queens of the wrestling business. Uh, uh, the queens. Like if they had a Mount Rushmore, it would be them.
Right. Right. They were all just great to work with. But the passion, the passion that Sherry showed, and the love of the business, to be working in a small league like that, but still cared and still had that fire. It was amazing to me. It was just inspiring. It's inspiring. Sherry was a great lady. She really was. I hate we lost her as quickly as we did, but you know, we just got to make the most every day we get because you never know. Never know.
And we got so much great memories of Sherry, Moolah, May, and all the other brothers and sisters that we lost in this business. We still have memories because of being in the business, being televised, and I mean, there you can find stuff on like the network, the Southern States Wrestling Network, that you never see, but you can cherish. That will always be there. So they'll always be with us. That's what's wonderful about our business, and I think that's why it's just so attracting to me to be part of this business, is because even when our time's up, there's going to be somebody. Hey, you remember them? You remember a time that Sensational Sherry managed Shawn Michaels, and him and Rick Martel fought over her, and I think that was a WrestleMania. If I wasn't, if I'm wrong. No, it wasn't WrestleMania.
I think
And
so.
I mean, we always have that. We always have that to look back. I loved her Hall of Fame speech too, and the WWE Hall of Fame speech was. I think that's where you saw her personality, because I mean, when you saw her on TV as a heel and everything like that, but when you heard her Hall of Fame speech, is just it was one of the most entertaining and just like heartwarming Hall of Fame speeches that I've ever watched.
Right. And it because of that excitement that she brought. It was that
Oh,
energy, that excitement, that true passion and love of the business that she had. And, that was her moment in the sun. And then that Hall of Fame moment. And then you could see the joy and the true just, exuberance that she brought. And that's how I'll always remember Sherry. I'll always remember her for the happy, smiling, fun-loving, cutting up, cracking jokes, um, just having a good time. Just having fun. I mean, when it came time to go to the ring and wrestle or be the bad girl or the baby face at times too. Whatever character, whatever role she was playing. She always got serious when it came time to business, but she was always just so much fun to be around. And, it's, that's what you have to look at. You got to just remember the good times, and the moments that you had. I mean, it's, that to me, that's one of the great things about the wrestling business in general is those moments, those split seconds in time, those things that you remember that happened 20 years ago because you were watching it on television and you were like, oh, did that really just happen? Um, and to me, it's that's one of the greatest things about being in the business is you can take people out of the reality of the real world and take them into this world and have a great time and make them laugh, make them cry, make them stand up, make them boo, and let them have that emotional release and just and forget about all the troubles of the world for a little while. That was always one of my big motivational factors when I worked for the USO and Armed Forces Entertainment is if we could take your mind off the troubles of the world for 10 minutes and make you forget all the problems out there for 10 minutes, we've done our job.
there you go.
We did our job. We made you forget about the problems of the world for just a little while and had some fun.
Dang. Dude, I love that. I'll let's talk because me and you both know this person. Let's talk a little bit about Bobo Brown, downtown Bobo Brown. Well, when did I'll say you met him at a Southern Stage show, didn't you?
Yes. Yeah, I met Bobo through Southern States Wrestling, and man, is the downtown Bobo Brown. He's quite a character, no question about that. And we had to learn real quickly to be careful about putting a live microphone around Bobo.
He's told me
I
this
think
story.
you, I mean, I love Bobo. I do. I mean, I hang out with him, talk to him all day. I mean, I always enjoy visiting with Bobo, but I'm not sure exactly how it worked out where he became part of the announce team. And it was me and him and Michael Sutherland. And I don't know exactly. I guess Bobo worked something out with Bo or something. All I knew was the next thing I know, I thought Bobo was ribbing with me. I really thought he was ribbing with me when he walked up to me that night and told me he was going to be calling matches with me and Sutherland. I'm like, okay, yeah, whatever, bro. Okay, yeah, we'll have fun. Let's do it. And then the reality set in, and I'm like, oh, this isn't a real. I thought this was a joke. But yeah, he definitely caused some editing issues because he said some things that we definitely couldn't put on Saturday morning television.
No, it's he told me about one he did. It was just a promo that he did. Um, I think about the U.S. title and about Lindsay Lohan. You know what I'm talking about? Were you there for
Oh
that
yeah,
one?
oh yeah, yeah. He 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 basically sat there and said that he was more excited about. I'm standing there, I'm sitting right next to him when he does it, and I'm like, what the are you talking about, dude? You can't say that, But I didn't say anything. I didn't, reprimand him or anything. I was just like, okay, yeah, and so and so's got an armbar in the ring. I just tried to transition off of it, but in the back of my mind, I'm thinking I better not turn the mic back over on him because there ain't no telling what he's going to say next. You know, Poor Bo James. I, it's just lucky for Bobo that Bo James wasn't monitoring the commentary because Bo would come out there and smacked him in the head or something. I couldn't imagine. He caught it
He's
late, sure, but yeah, I couldn't believe that one. I mean, Bobo would say some funny stuff, but you know, you gotta be careful what you say when you're doing stuff for television and even for DVD or whatever. It's I think it was funny. Hell yeah, I thought it was funny, but it wasn't something that we could use. It's kind of like the whole Jim Cornette thing where he made the joke about the guy riding the moped through Ethiopia with a chicken, and everybody got all upset about that. I mean, I can see where people would want to be call it racist or whatever, but it's an old joke. He's used the joke, for years. He's used it on Monday Night Raw. He's used it on WCW television. God knows they did worse than that on Smoky Mountain. But the whole thing just blew up because everybody's so sensitive now. You know,
yes.
it didn't have to be fried chicken in Ethiopia. It could have been fried chicken in fucking Detroit or whatever. I mean, but people just everyone's so sensitive now. I'd hate to try to make a living as a comedian anymore because what the hell are you going to talk about? What are you going to say? Because
Oh
everybody's
no. But there's so many people at comedy shows, if you just watch online, that they will get into it with the comedian on stage, and that's the worst thing to do. It's just like trying to get into it with a wrestler because you will get shut down quick. So,
true.
but yeah, Bobo's the only guy I know um, who is African American and then shows up to almost every wrestling show in a cowboy hat and cowboy boots. The only guy I know that's like that. He a character, yeah. He's one crazy character. But I mean, riding up and down with him, we worked in Hinton, West Virginia for Mountain State Wrestling for a while, and some of the stuff that he would talk about. Here's one thing: this was a trip I was not on, but him and uh, it's another worker. I cannot remember who was with him. There was going through uh, Virginia to go because you have to go through Virginia and West Virginia through those tunnels, and their mountains was on fire, and they found the fire department told them, and the fire department says, "Oh, the water in the river had put it out." Like, what do they get paid for there, and or in Virginia? If the mountains are on fire, the water in the river would put it out. Uh, that and then you've probably seen a lot of craziness like this go on. They were at a show in West Virginia with another guy that was doing a Democratic gimmick, which politics and wrestling gimmicks, I don't know how that would work out, and apparently this night it didn't, especially in West Virginia. So the dude was doing his promo about Hillary Clinton and like West Virginia hates the Clintons, and so a dude at the snack bar decides to pull his gun out of his holster, and Bobo freaks out. It's like, what is going on here? There's just so much crazy stuff that happens in the wrestling business, and to be honest with you, so much crazy stuff that happens around Bobo Brown.
Right. Bobo does seem to attract insanity.
He does.
It's kind of
That should be
daunting.
his new gimmick.
I think the guy you were talking about was Daniel Richards, the progressive liberal.
Yes, yes.
Daniel Richards. He was Southern States Wrestling champion for a little while, and yeah, that gimmick, man, that thing went wild. But it was it certainly drew him a lot of publicity. I mean, he was on Vice TV. They were on BBC with it, CBS, CNN. I mean, he was the hot ticket there for a while, because of the character and because the liberal news media, they loved it. And once he took off with one of them, we all got to feature this guy. And, it was good. It was a good run for him, no doubt. I actually saw him Sunday. He was over at the service for Bo's mom. Yeah, that character drew a lot of anger out of people, because like you said, you're getting people fired up over politics, and wrestling, is getting them fired up as well. And I unfortunately have seen some stupid things where people have attacked wrestlers and, jumped into rings and things like that. And, it just never works out good for them. It never works out good for the people
Do
jumping in the
not do it, people.
No, because there's, as well as I mean, they cross that line, it's time to hurt them. And
exactly.
I've seen people get hurt. I've hurt people unintentionally, trying to remove them from a wrestling ring. I'll tell you a good story. We were in, I want to say it was Clayton, North Carolina. It's near Raleigh. And Shane Helms was 16 years old, and he was working a match against a guy, and the guy had him in like a scorpion death lock or something. He had him in a submission hold, and this had been going on for a minute, and Shane was, about out. It was a big match, and but he had him clamped down the submission hold, had him, in desperate shape. He was about to give. Well, I'm calling the match for television with another gentleman, and we had a format. We knew basically what was going to happen throughout the program, and so here we are at this pivotal moment. Is Shane going to be able to kick out, or is he going to submit? And what's going to happen? Oh, what's going to happen? All of a sudden, this guy hits the ring, and he goes to attack Shane's opponent, and he doesn't make it all the way into the ring the way he wanted to, and his feet are still hanging over the apron, basically at this point. And I jumped up. I took the headset off I was wearing. I jumped up, and I went over and I grabbed the guy by his ankle, and I jerked the son of a bitch as hard as I could to try to get him out of there. Well, I pulled the boy so hard that when he fell, he ended up falling face first to the concrete floor. He didn't put his hands down. He didn't turn his head, nothing. Because I guess I pulled him so quickly, he didn't have time to react, or he's just stupid. I don't know. But he hit that concrete floor, just boom, face first. And I reached over and I grabbed the guy by the shirt, and I was like, oh, because his nose was busted, and lip, mouth, and everything was bleeding. Well, finally, by this point, the security for the match finally come over and got the guy. And as I was walking back over to sit back down, the promoter came over and he said, "Hey," he said, "do you know who that was?" I said, what, the guy that just ate the concrete? He said, yeah. He said, do you know who that was? I said, no, I have no idea who the guy was. He said, that was Shane Helms' brother. He was trying to save his brother. I'm like, well, he wasn't supposed to be there, was he? And he was like, no, he wasn't supposed to be there. I said, okay, well, he paid the price for it. I said, sorry the kid got hurt because I know he's hurt, but he shouldn't have done that. And the promoter was like, you're right, you're right. He said, I'm not mad with you. He said, I just wanted you to know who that was. I was like, okay, so I guess I better watch my back because maybe the rest of the family's going to come after me. I don't know.
Oh gosh.
But it was one of those crazy moments, It's just like, what the hell, But it never ends well when fans jump in the ring. They
No.
get hurt.
Or punch a wrestler as they're going by either. That does not end well for you at all. You just stay to yourself, enjoy the show, because if not, like he said, you will get hurt. There's no doubt about it. I've seen so many referees jump in on it. It's just like being gamed up and getting beat down. You don't want none of it. And see, the problem is a lot of them think, oh, well, I can go in here and I can take this guy. You'll find out real quick you can't. And then you'll wish you never did. So definitely, guys, girls, do not mess with any wrestlers. Do not jump into the ring because you will get hurt. Man, it's been so good to not just catching up with you, but to do this podcast, man. And like he said, go on Facebook and send Joe Wheeler a friend request. Buy some of that awesome memorabilia that he has that you can see actually behind him right now. Some of it. Anything else you want to plug? Any Southern States wrestling shows or any shows that you're doing you want to plug?
Yeah, definitely, like you said, everybody, hit me up on Facebook. I'll be doing some live auctions again in the weeks to come. I don't have any planned right now on the calendar because I'm getting ready to enjoy a few days of vacation here coming up in the next week or so. But I'll be doing some more Facebook sales and stuff. So please hit me up on Facebook. And if you haven't done so, guys, if you're a wrestling fan and you want to see some really cool stuff, Google the Southern States Wrestling Network. It'll pop up. It's on Pivot Share, and there is a 7-day free trial. So you can binge watch for 7 days, but I guarantee you won't get through all the content that we got on there, even in 7 days, because there's a lot of content. There's hours and hours and hours of footage on the Southern States Wrestling Network. It's only $4.99 a month. Once your 7-day free trial expires, it's only $4.99 a month, and we're putting new programming on there every month. So it's kind of like Netflix for wrestling, and it's not only Southern States Wrestling. You also get Atlantic Coast Championship Wrestling, which is a promotion that I ran in the Carolinas. Which Atlantic Coast, actually, we went nationwide. Thanks to Easy Rider magazine, and we did tours all over the country with them back in the late 90s and early 2000s. But that's a whole nother episode. We could talk about ACCW. But that content is on there. Southern States is on there. There's also a couple of other different independent promotions, one of which is out of Kentucky. So there's a lot of footage. And if you're a wrestling fan, you'll definitely enjoy it. The Southern States Wrestling Network. It's really cool. I'm glad to be a part of it because it documents a lot of my career, which has been a great ride.
Oh yeah. All right. Well, we also check out our Patreon. We'll put the link in the description. We go from a $5 tier all the way up to a $30 tier. The $30 tier will get you all the access, the bonus content, early access, the AMAs, which is Ask Me Anything, for me and Joe, and also our podcast T-shirt. check me out. As you can tell right now, you're on TDTV. It will be changing soon from TDTV to the Chicken Wing Wrestling Podcast. But also check me out on Twitter, um, as TD Heard on Twitter. Um, as for now, guys, me and Joe will be out. We will be back with you again soon. We'll keep you updated also on Twitter, on Facebook, and y'all have a good night.
See you next time.
See you next time.